Now we have the trickle bed reactor, which is largely used in the wastewater treatment processes. The major problem of this process is that as the time increases, the microbial microorganisms grow on the surface of solid matrix, and the porosity of the bed will lost. As the porosity of the bed is lost, then there will be channeling effect. As soon as there will be channeling effect, then the rate of performance of the reactor will drastically go down. So this is the major problem that we have with trickle bed reactor. This is the trickle bed reactor, where this one is the bed of the reactor and liquid flows from the top of the reactor. The liquid comes in contact with the solid particles of the reactors. It comes in contact with the organism, and if it is the bioreactor, then these organisms utilize the organic matter and convert them into maybe in carbon dioxide and cell mass, that it go then the water goes out like this. So the BOD and COD of the water reduced to a great extent. This is largely used in the wastewater treatment process by different industries and municipalities. Now the another very efficient reactor we have is the fluidized bed reactor. The reason why it is efficient, because the particles, you can see, they are not touching each other, they are separated from each other. And in this reactor we pass fluid at very high velocity, that there will be some kind of axial force which is more than the gravitational force. Then what will happen? Then particles will detach from each other, and this is possible when we pass the fluid at very high velocity. The problem is when we pass the fluid at a very high velocity, the hydraulic retention time will be very less. Now here, what is hydraulic retention time? It is the time liquid resides in the reactor. That is actually a reaction time. Since hydraulic retention time decreases, then what will happen? The reaction time also decrease. You will get very less amount of product formation. So what we have to do? We have to recycle the liquid again and again to get the desired amount of product, because you have to give the sufficient reaction time to get the desired amount of product formation. So if we look at this point here, I want to point out that the typical velocity for the fluid flow is 6 to 20 meter per hours, and recycle ratio is 5 to 500, and bed expansion 30 to 100% is maintained during the reactions in this type of reactors. And this type of reactors are largely used in multi-phase systems with biocatalysts in food processing industries. Then another reactor is bubble column reactor. It is used in biochemical industries, and a vessel filled with a liquid reactant and a gas reactant. In this reactor, feed passes from the bottom and moves upward in the form of bubbles. The liquid reactant is fed from the top and withdrawn from the bottom. The gaseous reactant is absorbed in the liquid reactants and the reaction takes place in liquid phase. Like this is the bubble column reactor. If we look at this algae fermentation process, we pass this is the medium where the algae grow, and we pass the air. Air gives the carbon dioxide, dissolved carbon dioxide here. The carbon dioxide utilized by the algae cell and fixed in the form of cell mass, and here the gas will go out. In mostly it contains oxygen, converted carbon dioxide and nitrogen that was present in air. Here liquid comes like this and goes like this, and the algae cell mass production takes place. It is largely used in the production of single cell protein, algae cultivation, etc. Now next is the airlift reactor. Airlift reactors are similar to bubble column reactors but differ by the fact that they contain a draft tube. The draft tube is always an inner tube or an external tube, which improves circulation and oxygen transfer rate and equalize shear force in the reactor. If we look at the reactor, we can see different type of draft tubes. When we pass air from this side, it goes out like this, but there will be some kind of dragging force here. With the dragging force, some of the air bubbles will recycle back to the system this way and this way. In this is the two pattern we can have. The aeration pattern might be different. If we look at these reactors working, then there will be some shear stress in the reactor. As we know, when we work with kind of living cells, shear force that plays very important role, because if the shear force is very high, that will hinder the growth of organism. So if the shear force is less, then it will be good for some of the organisms to grow, particularly like plant cells. So it has different applications, like in photobiological process. Also it is used in the plant cell growth for the scaling up of the plant cell. Next, I want to discuss about the different type of miscellaneous reactor. Like we have this membrane reactor. You can see this is the membrane, and we can fix our enzymes or microbial cells over here. When you pass your substrate from this side, it will come in contact with enzymes and cells, and then we can have the desired product at the end. So this is largely used in monoclonal antibody production, for wastewater treatment processes, and and for the dehydrogenation of ethane. Now I want to talk little bit about construction of characteristic of construction material. So that is very important, that what are the materials that usually recommended to prepare the reactors. And the first characteristic is it should be flexible and durable. It should be durable because you know that the reactor life should be minimum 10 to 20 years. So on the basis of that, we should select the construction material accordingly. Then it should be non-toxic to reactants and products. That is very important. If it is toxic, then naturally your product formation will be affected, then resistant to the chemical and metabolic products by the organisms. So during the microbial conversion process, or there may be the enzymatic reaction, some product formation is there, so your material of construction should resist to that. Then the resistance to weather. And next one is low cost and availability. That is very important because cost is the very important factor as per industry is concerned. And most of the biochemical industry, if we look, that you know that the construction of material is mostly made of stainless steel, and the stainless steel quality depend on the composition of the alloy that we have. In the stainless steel, I would like to point out here that it should contain at least 12% of chromium that will prevent the corrosion, and 8% nickel gives the smooth structure of stainless steel. Even we have seen, if we use the little bit of molybdenum, that further increase the acid resistant property of the stainless steel. So different type of stainless steels that has been used as a material of construction in chemical industries, biochemical industries. Last one is high transparency, particularly in case of photo bioreactor. This is required polycarbonate. Its transparency is 100%, and we find that light can penetrate very easily. This is very much required for the growth of algae cells. Now next we can see the lab scale and commercial scale bioreactors. In the lab scale, usually prescribed that it should be transparent, so that from the outside we can see what is going on inside the reactor. You can have the visual observation like this, but in the industry it is not possible. It is very bigger scale. We operated in a very high scale. Here what we do, at the top we have the watch glass. On one end we put the light, and on the another end you can see that what is going on inside the reactor. That is in the practice with the industries. Thank you so much. We will discuss next topics in the next lectures.